The Silent Trap. The morning air on Cat 7 was thick with the scent of alien vegetation and something else, something that made the hair on Admiral Elena Vasquez's neck stand up. Predator musk. She had smelled it on a dozen different worlds during her 40-year military career, and it always meant the same thing. Something dangerous was watching. Elena walked slowly through the towering purple trees, her weathered hands gripping a simple walking stick. At 72 years old, she moved with the careful steps of someone whose body had seen too many battles. Her silver hair was pulled back in a neat bun, and her faded military jacket hung loosely on her small frame. To any observer, she looked like exactly what she appeared to be, an elderly human who had wandered too far from the safety of the settlement. But Elena Vasquez had not wandered anywhere by accident in over 5 decades. The crack of a branch behind her made her pause. She turned slowly, her pale blue eyes scanning the forest canopy. Nothing moved, but she could feel them watching. The Krillians thought they were so clever, so perfectly evolved for hunting. Standing nearly 9 feet tall with razor-sharp claws, enhanced senses, and natural camouflage that shifted with their environment, they were indeed formidable predators. They were also exactly where Elena wanted them. A low growl rumbled through the forest, followed by the sound of something large moving through the undergrowth. Elena smiled grimly and continued walking toward the clearing ahead. She knew from her reconnaissance that this was where they would make their move. The Krillians preferred to capture their prey in open spaces where they could surround and overwhelm. As she stepped into the sunlight, the attack came swiftly. 3 massive forms dropped from the canopy above, landing in perfect formation around her. Their skin rippled with color changes, deep greens and browns that had made them invisible against the trees. Each one stood nearly twice Elena's height, their elongated limbs ending in claws that could tear through steel. Their faces were angular and predatory, with large eyes that could track movement in near-total darkness. The largest of the 3 stepped forward, his hide shifting to a dominant red and gold pattern. This was their leader. Elena had studied enough Krillian behavior to recognize the alpha displays. Well, the leader said in accented but clear human language. His voice was a low rumble that seemed to come from deep in his chest. What do we have here? An old human female, wandering alone in our hunting preserve. Elena leaned heavily on her walking stick and looked up at him with tired eyes. I seem to have gotten lost, she said in a weak voice. Could you perhaps point me toward the human settlement? The 3 Krillians exchanged glances and began to make a sound that Elena realized was laughter. It was a harsh, barking noise that sent chills down her spine. Lost, she says, the leader continued, circling Elena slowly. Tell me, old woman, do you know what this place is? Elena shook her head, doing her best to look confused and frightened. I was just looking for my grandson. He said he was going to explore the forest. Your grandson? The leader stopped directly in front of her, towering over her small form. There is no grandson, human. Our sensors would have detected any other of your kind within 50 kilometers. You are alone. The admission hung in the air for a moment before Elena sighed and straightened slightly. You're right, of course. There is no grandson. I am Hunt Master Vex, the leader announced, his chest swelling with pride. This is my preserve, and you have trespassed on sacred hunting grounds. Do you know what that means? Elena met his gaze steadily. I imagine it means you're going to hunt me. Hunt you? Vex barked another laugh. Look at yourself, human. You can barely stand without that stick. Your hair is the color of moon-bleached bone. Your skin is thin as dried leaf. And you move like a creature already half dead. What sport would there be in hunting you? One of the other Krillians, smaller but with more aggressive coloring, stepped forward. Hunt Master, perhaps we should simply return her to the settlement. Surely even humans would not send such a pathetic specimen into our territory intentionally. Vex turned to look at his subordinate, his hide shifting to warning colors of bright orange and black. Careful, talon-sharp Zek. Are you questioning my judgment? Zek immediately backed down, his own coloring shifting to submissive blues and grays. Of course not, Hunt Master. I merely thought. You thought wrong. Vex cut him off. This human came here for a reason. Look at her eyes, Zek. Look at how she stands now that her deception is revealed. This is no lost elder. Elena smiled slightly. Very observant. Hunt master, I was wondering when you would notice. Vex leaned down until his face was level with Elena's. His breath smelled of meat and something acidic. Who are you, human? And why have you come to my preserve? My name is Elena Vasquez, she replied calmly. And I came here because I wanted to learn about Krillian hunting techniques. I've heard you're the finest predators in this sector of the galaxy. The three aliens exchanged glances again, this time with less amusement and more confusion. You came here to learn? Vex straightened up, his hide rippling with confused colors. Humans are prey species. Weak, slow, with blunt teeth and no natural weapons. What could you possibly learn from us? Elena shifted her weight and looked around at the surrounding forest. I've been studying predator species for most of my life, Hunt Master. I've observed the great cat hunters of Vega Prime, watched the pack stalkers of the Rim Worlds, even survived an encounter with the shadow killers of the Darkness Nebula. But I've never seen anything quite like Krillian hunting methods. And what makes you think we would teach you anything? Vex asked, his tone becoming more threatening. Because, Elena said, meeting his gaze directly, I think there might be something I could teach you in return. The silence that followed was broken only by the sound of wind through the alien trees. Finally, Vex threw back his head and let out a roar of laughter that echoed through the forest. Teach us, he howled. A human teach Krillians about hunting? We have evolved for millions of years to be perfect predators. Our senses can detect the heartbeat of prey from kilometers away. Our claws can cut through any armor. Our speed and strength are beyond your comprehension. What could a soft, weak human possibly teach us? Elena nodded thoughtfully. You're absolutely right about your physical advantages. You are indeed magnificent predators, but there's something your species has never encountered before. And what is that? Vex asked, his laughter dying away. Humans aren't just prey, Elena said quietly. We're apex predators too. We just hunt differently. Vex snorted dismissively. Apex predators. Look at yourself, human. You have no claws, no fangs, no natural armor. Your senses are pathetically weak compared to ours. How can you claim to be apex predators? Elena smiled, and for the first time since the encounter began, there was something cold and dangerous in her expression. Because we don't need claws or fangs, young hunter. We have something much more dangerous. And what is that? Vex demanded. Patience, Elena replied, and the ability to think several moves ahead. The hunt master studied her for a long moment, his hide shifting through various color patterns as he processed this information. You speak in riddles, human. If you are such a dangerous predator, why did you come here alone? Why surrender yourself to us? Who says I surrendered? Elena asked. And who says I came alone? The three Krillians immediately went into defensive postures, their heads turning as they scanned the surrounding forest. Their enhanced senses searched for any sign of hidden threats. I detect no other humans, Vex said after a moment, though his voice was less certain than before. Of course you don't, Elena agreed. We're very good at not being detected when we don't want to be. Vex snarled and took a step toward Elena, his claws extending. Enough games, human. If you were trying to frighten us with phantom allies, you have failed. I can smell your fear. Elena tilted her head slightly. Can you? Are you sure that's fear you're smelling? The young Krillian paused, his nostrils flaring as he tested the air again. His expression grew confused. You are not afraid, he said slowly. But that is impossible. You are surrounded by predators who could kill you in seconds. True, Elena acknowledged. But fear is only useful if it helps you survive. Right now, it would just get in the way of what I need to accomplish. Vex moved closer, his massive form blocking out the sun. And what exactly are you trying to accomplish, Admiral Elena Vasquez? Elena raised an eyebrow. You know my rank? We have been monitoring human military communications for months. Your name appears frequently in strategic reports. You are known as one of the most successful military commanders in human space. Vex paused. Which makes your presence here even more puzzling. Not puzzling at all, Elena said. I'm here to give you a demonstration. A demonstration of what? Elena looked directly into Vex's large predatory eyes. Of why humans have survived and thrived on 1,000 different worlds, despite being surrounded by creatures that are faster, stronger, and better armed than we are. The third Krillian, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. His voice was deeper than the others, and his coloring suggested he was older. Hunt Master, perhaps we should contact the Council. This human may be more dangerous than she appears. Vex turned to look at his subordinate. Dangerous? Scar-High Theron, she is one elderly human female. Even if she has some hidden plan, what could she possibly do against an entire hunting preserve full of Krillian warriors? That, Elena said quietly, is exactly what I'm hoping to show you. Vex studied her for another long moment before making a decision. Very well, Admiral Vasquez. You want to give us a demonstration. Then we will give you the opportunity, but it will be on our terms. Elena nodded. I would expect nothing less. You will be our prey in the Great Hunt, Vex announced. You will be given basic survival gear and released into the preserve. We will track you down and capture you, and when we do, you will explain this demonstration you promised. And if I evade capture? Elena asked. Vex's laugh was harsh and confident. Impossible. No prey has ever escaped the Great Hunt. We are too skilled, too well equipped, and too numerous. Elena smiled. In that case, Hunt Master, I accept your challenge, but I have one request. You are in no position to make requests, human. Humor me, Elena said. When this is over and you understand what I've shown you, I want you to consider a proposal I have for your people. Vex's eyes shifted to curious colors. What kind of proposal? An alliance, Elena said simply. Humans and Krillians, working together instead of seeing each other as predator and prey. Ridiculous, Vex snorted. Why would we need an alliance with weak prey animals? Elena's smile widened. Because, young hunter, there are things in this galaxy that even Krillians can't hunt alone, and someday soon, you're going to need friends who think the way humans do. Vex considered this for a moment before nodding. Very well. If you can somehow evade capture, which you cannot, I will listen to your proposal. But when we catch you, as we inevitably will, you will accept that humans are prey and Krillians are predators, and this foolish talk of alliances will end. Agreed, Elena said. When do we begin? Now, Vex replied. Scar-High Theron will escort you to the starting point and provide you with basic survival gear. You will have exactly 1 hour before we begin tracking you. As Theron moved to escort Elena away, she turned back to look at Vex one more time. Hunt Master, before we begin, let me ask you something. In all your years of hunting, have you ever encountered prey that wanted to be caught? Vex's hide rippled with confused colors. What do you mean? I mean, Elena said as she walked away, sometimes the most dangerous trap is the one that looks like an opportunity. As she disappeared into the forest with her escort, Vex stood in the clearing, staring after her with growing unease. Something about the human's confidence troubled him deeply. Prey animals didn't act this way. They ran, they hid, they begged for mercy. They didn't smile like they knew something you didn't. For the first time in his long career as a hunter, Vex began to wonder if he was making a mistake. But it was too late to turn back now. The hunt would begin soon, and Admiral Elena Vasquez would learn the hard way what it meant to challenge the greatest predators in the galaxy. What Vex didn't realize was that Elena was counting on exactly that kind of thinking. After all, the first rule of being an apex predator wasn't about having the sharpest claws or the strongest bite. It was about making your prey come to you, predator and prey. The survival pack that Scar-High Theron provided was basic even by Krillian standards. A simple water purifier, some emergency rations, a basic shelter tar, and a single knife with a blade no longer than Elena's palm. As she shouldered the lightweight pack, Elena examined each item carefully while Theron watched with what might have been curiosity. You seem pleased with such meager equipment, Theron observed. His voice was gravelly, and Elena noticed several scars along his neck and arms, marks of an experienced hunter who had faced dangerous prey before. Elena hefted the small knife, testing its balance. It's perfect, she said. Sometimes less is more. You humans have strange sayings, Theron replied. How can less ever be more? Elena looked up at the massive Krillian. Tell me, Scar-Hide Theron, what was the most dangerous prey you ever hunted? Theron's hide shifted to proud colors as he recalled the memory. A Vorthan Deathstalker on the moon of Kes 9. 12 feet tall, armored hide that could deflect energy weapons and venom that could kill a Krillian in minutes. It took me 6 hours to bring it down. And how did you manage it? Elena asked. Persistence, Theron said immediately. I tracked it through 3 different terrain types, waited for it to make a mistake, then struck at its one vulnerable spot when it was exhausted. Elena nodded appreciatively. Patience, persistence, and striking at the right moment. Those are very human qualities, Theron. The old hunter's eyes narrowed. What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting that perhaps Krillians and humans aren't as different as your hunt master believes. Elena adjusted her pack and looked around at the dense forest that surrounded the starting point. We both understand that the most dangerous predators aren't always the ones with the biggest claws. Before Theron could respond, a distant horn sounded across the preserve, a deep, resonant note that seemed to make the very air vibrate. Elena recognized it immediately from her research. The hunt call. Your hour is up, Admiral, Theron said, his hide beginning to shift to the mottled greens and browns of camouflage. The hunt begins now. Elena shouldered her pack and started walking toward the deeper forest. Then let's see what we can learn about each other, shall we? As she disappeared into the undergrowth, Theron stood watching for a moment longer. There was something about the human's confidence that reminded him of the most dangerous prey he had ever faced. Creatures that were deadly not because of their strength, but because of their unpredictability. The hunt had officially begun. Elena moved through the forest with the steady pace of someone who had learned to conserve energy over long distances. She wasn't trying to run or hide, not yet. Instead, she was reading the terrain, understanding the environment, and most importantly, learning the patterns of her hunters. Behind her, she could hear the Krillians beginning their pursuit. Their enhanced senses made them excellent trackers, but Elena had expected that. What she was listening for were the subtle signs that would tell her about their hunting strategy. The sounds came from 3 directions. They were using a classic triangulation pattern, with the alpha predator leading the center track while 2 subordinates flanked wide to prevent escape. It was an effective technique that had probably worked on countless prey animals. Elena smiled to herself. The Krillians were hunting her exactly the way she had predicted they would. She found what she was looking for after another 20 minutes of steady walking, a narrow ravine with steep sides and a single way in or out. To most prey animals, it would look like a trap to be avoided, but Elena had other plans. She scrambled down into the ravine and began to work quickly. The small knife was perfect for what she needed, cutting small branches, sharpening stakes, and preparing thin vines. Her movements were economical and precise, the result of decades of survival training in hostile environments. The first trap was simple but effective, a pit covered with carefully woven branches and leaves, designed to catch an unwary pursuer. But Elena wasn't trying to seriously injure anyone. This was about demonstration, not destruction. The second trap was more complex, a series of tripwires connected to carefully balanced logs that would create noise and confusion when triggered. Again, designed to inconvenience rather than harm. But the third trap was the most important one. Elena found a tree with sturdy branches overlooking the ravine entrance and began to prepare her real surprise. As she worked, Elena's mind drifted back to her early days in the military. She had been young then, convinced that superior firepower was the answer to every tactical problem. It had taken years of experience and several near disasters to teach her the truth that every successful predator learned eventually. The most dangerous weapon was the one your opponent never saw coming. The sound of approaching footsteps brought Elena back to the present. Her pursuers were getting close, and she could hear them communicating in their own language, a series of clicks and growls that she had studied but never fully mastered. She settled into position and waited. Talon Sharp Sec was the first to reach the ravine entrance. The young Krillian moved with the eager confidence of a hunter who had never failed to catch his prey. His hide was perfectly camouflaged, and his movements were silent despite his massive size. Alina watched from her hiding place as Zek examined the entrance to the ravine. His enhanced senses were clearly telling him that his prey had passed this way, but something was making him cautious. Good, Alina thought. He's learning. Zek called out to the others in their hunting language, and soon Alina could see Hunt Master Vex and Scar-High Theron approaching from different directions. The three hunters converged at the ravine entrance, their body language suggesting discussion and debate. Alina couldn't understand their words, but she could read their gestures. Zek wanted to pursue immediately. Theron was urging caution. Vex was making the final decision. Finally, Vex gestured for Zek to take point, with Theron following and the Hunt Master bringing up the rear. Standard formation for exploring potentially dangerous terrain. Alina waited until all three hunters had entered the ravine before she made her move. Zek triggered the first trap exactly as Alina had planned. The young Krillian's foot went through the false covering, and he found himself stuck in a hole that was just deep enough to be inconvenient without being dangerous. His roar of surprise and anger echoed through the ravine. As Theron moved to help extract his companion, he triggered the second trap. The carefully balanced logs came crashing down around them, creating a tremendous noise and cloud of dust, but causing no real harm. In the confusion that followed, Alina dropped down from her hiding place directly behind Hunt Master Vex. Impressive reflexes, she said calmly as Vex spun around to face her. The massive Krillian's hide flashed through a rainbow of surprised colors before settling into aggressive reds and oranges. "How did you?" he began. "The same way any predator catches its prey," Alina interrupted. "Patience, planning, and understanding your opponent's behavior." Vex's claws extended, but he didn't attack immediately. Around them, Zek was still trying to extract himself from the pit while Theron was clearing debris from the second trap. "You set traps," Vex said, his voice carrying a note of something that might have been respect. "Prey animals don't set traps." "Exactly," Alina agreed. "Prey animals run or hide. Predators set traps." "You are still trapped in this ravine with 3 Krillian hunters," Vex pointed out. "Your tricks were clever, but they haven't changed the fundamental situation." Alina smiled. "Haven't they? Tell me, Huntmaster, what do you think the purpose of these traps was?" Vex's eyes shifted to puzzled colors. "To delay us, obviously." "Wrong," Alina said. "They were to demonstrate something." "Demonstrate what?" Alina gestured to where Zek was finally climbing out of this hole, his pride clearly wounded along with his dignity. That even the most skilled predators can be caught off guard by prey that thinks differently than they expect. Vex followed her gaze, and Alina could see understanding beginning to dawn in his large eyes. "You see," Alina continued, "Krillians hunt like apex predators from a world where physical dominance determines survival. You use your superior senses, strength, and speed to overwhelm your prey. It's an effective strategy that has worked for your species for millions of years." "But," Vex prompted. "But humans evolved differently," Alina explained. "We weren't the strongest or fastest creatures on our world. We survived by being smarter, more adaptable, and more cooperative than our competitors. We learned to use tools, to plan complex strategies, and most importantly, to work together toward common goals." Theron approached them, his hide showing cautious colors. "You speak of cooperation, human, but you are alone here." Alina's smile widened. "Am I?" Before any of the Krillians could respond, a new voice spoke from above them. "Actually, she's not." All 3 hunters spun around to see a figure silhouetted against the sky at the top of the ravine. It was another human, a tall, dark-skinned man with military bearing and equipment that was clearly more advanced than the basic survival gear Alina had been given. "Commander Sarah Chen," Alina called out cheerfully. "Right on schedule." The figure above them shifted position, and they could see that it was actually a woman in military fatigues. "Admiral, we have 7 Krillian hunting parties converging on this location. Should we proceed with Phase 2? Vex's eye flashed through rapid color changes indicating shock and confusion. 7 hunting parties? But there are only 6 in the entire preserve. Plus the one led by Hunt Master Zekvar from the Southern Preserve, Alina finished. "Yes, we know. We've been monitoring all Krillian communications for the past 3 days." Zek finally managed to speak, Impossible. Our communications are encrypted with quantum-level security. Commander Chen, would you like to explain? Elena asked. The human above them held up a small device. Human quantum computing cracked your encryption approximately 6 hours ago. We've been listening to your hunting plans since yesterday. Elena turned back to Vex, who was staring at her with what appeared to be a mixture of shock and dawning respect. You see, Hunt Master, this is what I meant about humans being apex predators. We don't rely on individual strength or speed. We use intelligence, technology, and most importantly, teamwork. You planned all of this, Vex said slowly. The capture, the hunt, even our responses. Not exactly, Elena admitted. I planned several different scenarios depending on how you reacted. The one advantage humans have learned to develop over millions of years is adaptability. We can change our strategy on the fly based on new information. Scarhide Theron looked up at Commander Chen, then back at Elena. How many of you are there? Elena considered the question. In the immediate area, 12. On this planet, about 200. In this star system. She shrugged. Enough. The implications of this hit all three Krillians simultaneously. Vex Hive went through a series of colors that Elena recognized as the Krillian equivalent of someone rapidly recalculating a tactical situation. You have been studying us, Vex said finally. For months, Elena confirmed, ever since we learned about your hunting preserves. We needed to understand how you think, how you hunt, how you organize your society. Why? Zek demanded. What do you want from us? Elena's expression grew serious. The same thing I've wanted since I first requested this meeting, young hunter. An alliance. Vex's massive head tilted slightly. You orchestrated your own capture, allowed yourself to be hunted, and revealed your people's capabilities just to arrange a meeting. Diplomacy only works between equals, Elena explained. As long as you saw humans as prey animals, no meaningful discussion was possible. I needed to demonstrate that we're not prey. We're fellow predators who happen to hunt differently than you do. Commander Chen's voice came from above. Admiral, we're getting reports of more Krillian hunters approaching. Should we extract you now? Elena looked at Hunt Master Vex. That depends. Are you ready to listen to what I have to propose? Vex studied her for a long moment. Around them, Elena could hear the distant sounds of other hunting parties approaching, more Krillians drawn by the commotion in the ravine. Your demonstration has been effective, Vex admitted. But I am only one hunt master. Any alliance would require the approval of the Krillian Council. I understand, Elena said, but I'm hoping you'll be willing to arrange that meeting. And if I refuse? Vex asked. Elena's smile was friendly but carried an edge of steel. Then Commander Chen and her team will escort me safely off your preserve, and you'll have learned something valuable about human capabilities. No harm done. But, Vex prompted, but you'll also have missed an opportunity to learn about the real reason I'm here. Elena finished. And trust me, Hunt Master, when you hear what's coming toward our part of the galaxy, you're going to want all the allies you can get. The sound of approaching hunters was getting closer now. Elena could see the tension in all three Krillians as they processed everything they had learned in the past hour. Finally, Vex made his decision. Chen, he called up to the human commander, call off your extraction. I want to hear what the Admiral has to say. Elena nodded approvingly. An excellent choice, Hunt Master, but perhaps we should move this conversation somewhere more private? Vex's eyes shifted to what Elena had learned were the colors of grim amusement. Follow me, Admiral. It seems we have much to discuss. As they prepared to leave the ravine, Elena caught Theron watching her with calculating eyes. Something on your mind, Scarhide? She asked. The old hunter's scarred face was thoughtful. You could have killed us, couldn't you? With your advanced technology and superior numbers. Elena met his gaze steadily. Yes, but you didn't. No. Why not? Elena smiled. Because, Theron, the mark of a true apex predator isn't the ability to destroy everything around you. It's the wisdom to know when not to. As they climbed out of the ravine, Elena could see understanding beginning to dawn in the eyes of all three Krillian hunters. They were starting to realize that everything they thought they knew about humans had been wrong. And that, Elena reflected, was exactly the point of the exercise. Sometimes the most important lessons were the ones that forced you to completely reconsider your assumptions. The real hunt was just beginning. The true hunters. The Krillian Council Chamber was an impressive sight, even by galactic standards. Carved from a single massive crystal formation deep within Keth 7's primary mountain range, the chamber rose nearly 100 meters into the air, its walls reflecting and amplifying light in patterns that seemed to shift with the emotions of those within. Elena stood at the center of the circular floor, surrounded by 47 of the most powerful Krillian hunt masters in known space. It had been 3 days since the incident in the ravine, and Elena had spent that time in what the Krillians call honored confinement, essentially comfortable quarters under guard while the council debated whether to hear her proposal or simply execute her for trespassing on sacred hunting grounds. Huntmaster Vex had argued strongly for the hearing, supported by Scarhide Theron and, surprisingly, even Talon Sharp Sec. The young hunter's pride had been wounded by Elena's demonstration, but his curiosity had been awakened by something far more important. At the head of the council sat Alpha Prime Korath, the oldest and most respected hunt master of the Krillian species. His hide showed the deep purples and golds of extreme age and wisdom, and the scars covering his massive frame told the story of countless successful hunts spanning over 3 centuries. Admiral Elena Vasquez of the human species, Korath's voice rumbled through the chamber. You stand accused of trespassing on sacred hunting grounds, interfering with the great hunt, and making false claims about human capabilities. How do you answer these charges? Elena stood straight, her small human form dwarfed by the massive aliens surrounding her, but her voice carried clearly through the crystal chamber. Alpha Prime Korath, I answer that I did exactly what I came here to do. Demonstrate that humans and Krillians have more in common than either species previously understood. A ripple of color changes swept through the assembled hunt masters, some showing dismissive oranges and reds, others displaying the curious blues and greens of interest. Korath himself remained impassive, his ancient hide showing only the neutral grays of careful consideration. You claim that humans are apex predators, Korath continued. Yet you appear to us as weak, slow creatures with no natural weapons. Explain this contradiction. Elena had prepared for this question during her 3 days of confinement. Alpha Prime, with your permission, I would like to tell you a story about the first humans who learned to hunt. Several of the younger hunt masters hissed with impatience, but Korath gestured for silence. Speak. Millions of years ago on Earth, early humans were not apex predators. Elena began. We were small, relatively slow, and vulnerable. The world was filled with creatures that could kill us easily. Massive cats with teeth like daggers, bears that could crush our bones with their paws, wolves that hunted in coordinated packs. She paused, looking around at the assembled Krillians. Sound familiar? Vex's hide showed amused colors. You compare us to the primitive predators of your homeworld. In some ways, yes, Elena replied. But here's what's interesting. Those primitive predators are all extinct now. Every single species that was physically superior to early humans is gone. But humans survived and eventually dominated our entire planet. How? The question came from Talon Sharp Sec, his young voice betraying genuine curiosity. By learning to hunt in ways that physical predators never could, Elena explained. We learned to use tools to extend our reach and multiply our strength. We learned to communicate complex plans to coordinate our actions. Most importantly, we learned to think not just about the hunt in front of us, but about hunts that might happen seasons or even years in the future. Alpha Prime Korath leaned forward slightly. Elaborate on this long-term thinking. Elena smiled. On Earth, humans didn't just hunt individual animals. We learned to manage entire herds, guiding their migration patterns, protecting them from other predators, and taking only what we needed to ensure the herds would continue to thrive. We turned hunting from a series of individual kills into a sustainable system that could feed our people indefinitely. The chamber fell silent as the implications of this sank in. Several hunt masters exchanged glances, their hide patterns showing varying degrees of understanding and concern. You're describing farming, Scarhide Theron observed. managing prey rather than simply taking it. Exactly, Elena agreed. But it goes beyond that. Humans learn to see patterns that span generations. We would plant forests knowing that our great-grandchildren would harvest the wood. We would build irrigation systems that would benefit humans who hadn't even been born yet. Huntmaster Kesray, whose distinctive spiral scars marked her as a veteran of the Deep Hunt campaigns, spoke for the first time. What does this have to do with your proposal for alliance? Elena turned to face her directly. Because Huntmaster Kesray, that same long-term thinking is what brought me here today. Humans have been watching this sector of space for decades, studying the patterns, trying to understand what's coming. What do you mean? What's coming? Alpha Prime Karat's voice carried a note of command that made the crystal walls of the chamber resonate. Elena reached into her jacket and withdrew a small data pad. With your permission, Alpha Prime. Korath nodded, and Elena activated the device. A three-dimensional hologram appeared above her head, showing a map of the local galactic region with various markers indicating star systems, trade routes, and known territories. For the past 50 years, Elena began. Human deep space monitoring stations have been detecting anomalous signals from beyond the galactic rim. Energy patterns that don't match any known natural phenomena or technological signatures. The hologram zoomed in on a section of space beyond the current borders of known civilization. Red markers began appearing, indicating the sources of the mysterious signals. At first, we thought these might be natural phenomena, pulsars, quantum storms, perhaps even evidence of ancient alien civilizations. But the patterns are too regular, too coordinated. Elena manipulated the display, showing the signal's progression over time. They're moving, deliberately, toward inhabited space. Huntmaster Vex rose from his position in the circle. You're suggesting an invasion force of some kind. I'm suggesting something much worse, Elena replied grimly. Based on our analysis of the energy signatures and movement patterns, we're looking at something that makes any known military force look primitive by comparison. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of growls, clicks, and color changes as the assembled Huntmasters reacted to this revelation. Alpha Prime Korath's powerful voice cut through the noise. Silence. The ancient leader studied Elena with eyes that had seen 3 centuries of warfare and politics. You bring us tales of phantom threats to justify your presence here. How do we know this isn't simply human deception? Elena had expected this challenge, because Alpha Prime, we've brought proof. She touched another control on her datapad, and the hologram changed to show detailed sensor readings, mathematical analyses, and projection models. This data has been independently verified by the Centauri Science Collective, the Vegan Research Institute, and the Neutral Zone Observatory Network. The threat is real. Huntmaster Kesri studied the projections carefully. Even if we accept your data as accurate, what does this have to do with the Krillian people? We are warriors, not scientists. Because, Elena said, her voice growing more intense, when this threat arrives, and our calculations suggest it will reach the outer colonies within 18 months, it's going to require every advantage we can muster. Krillian hunting skills, human strategic thinking, and the combined resources of every species willing to work together. The chamber fell silent again as the Hunt Masters processed this information. Finally, young Talon Sharpsec spoke up. You're proposing a hunt, he said slowly. Not for prey, but against predators. Elena smiled. Now you're beginning to understand. Alpha Prime Korath rose to his full impressive height. You ask us to abandon our traditional role as hunters to become, what? Soldiers in a human war? I ask you to evolve, Elena replied boldly. The same way humans evolved from prey animals to apex predators. The same way you evolved from simple hunters to the masters of an interstellar civilization. She gestured to the assembled Hunt Masters. Look around this chamber. Every Krillian here represents the pinnacle of your species' development. You've already evolved far beyond your original nature as individual predators. You've learned to work together, to plan complex strategies, to manage resources across multiple star systems. Huntmaster Vex nodded slowly. She speaks truth, Alpha Prime. Our hunting preserves require coordination between dozens of different worlds. Our great hunts involve planning that spans months or even years. Exactly, Elena continued. Krillians have already demonstrated the ability to think and act at the scale this threat will require. What I'm proposing is that we combine that capability with human technological adaptability and strategic planning. Scarhide Theron spoke from his position near the chamber's edge. What specific form would this alliance take? Elena activated another display on her datapad. Joint research facilities to study the approaching threat. Combined training exercises to develop tactics for fighting an unknown enemy. Shared intelligence networks to coordinate our response across multiple star systems. The hologram showed detailed plans for integrated human Krillian installations, communication networks, and command structures. Most importantly, Elena continued, we're proposing to establish joint colonies in the outer systems, advanced warning posts that can give us early intelligence about the threat while demonstrating the effectiveness of our cooperation. Alpha Prime Karat studied the plans carefully. You have put considerable thought into this proposal. Humans plan for the long term, Elena reminded him. This alliance isn't just about facing the immediate threat. It's about building a relationship that will benefit both species for generations to come. Huntmaster Kesray raised a clawed hand. What guarantees do we have that humans won't use this alliance to their own advantage? That you won't attempt to dominate us as you claim to have dominated your homeworld? Elena met her gaze steadily. The same guarantee that Krillians offer when they form hunting partnerships. Mutual respect based on mutual benefit. Humans didn't dominate Earth by destroying other species. We thrived by finding ways to work with our environment rather than against it. But you said the other predator species went extinct, Talon Sharpsec pointed out. The ones that couldn't adapt did, Elena agreed. But many others learned to coexist with humans. On Earth today, there are more species of animals than there were before humans became the dominant intelligence. We learned that diversity makes ecosystems stronger, not weaker. The young hunt master's eyes showed thoughtful colors. You're saying that cooperation makes both species more successful than either would be alone. I'm saying that's how apex predators really work, Elena replied. They don't just consume everything around them, they manage their environment to ensure long-term success. Alpha Prime Karath had been silent during this exchange, but now he spoke with the authority of 3 centuries of leadership. Admiral Vasquez, your demonstration in our hunting preserves showed capabilities we did not expect from humans. Your proposal offers benefits that merit serious consideration. But you ask us to fundamentally change our relationship with your species based on a threat that may or may not materialize. Elena nodded respectfully. I understand your caution, Alpha Prime, which is why I'm not asking for an immediate commitment to full alliance. She manipulated her datapad again, and the hologram changed to show a smaller, more modest set of proposals. What I'm asking for is a trial period, Elena explained. 6 months of limited cooperation, joint research into the sensor data we collected, combined patrols of the outer systems, small-scale training exercises to test the effectiveness of human Krillian coordination. And if this trial period proves unsuccessful, Huntmaster Kesray asked, then we part as friends, having learned something valuable about each other, Elena replied. But if it works, if we prove that humans and Krillians can hunt together as effectively as we hunt separately, then we'll be ready when the real threat arrives. The chamber fell silent as the assembled hunt masters considered this proposal. Elena could see the color patterns on their hides shifting as they weighed the potential benefits against the risks. Finally, Alpha Prime Karat spoke. The council will deliberate on your proposal. You will remain in honored confinement until we reach a decision. As the massive Krillians began to file out of the chamber, Elena called out one final time. Alpha Prime Koreth? The ancient leader paused and turned back to face her. Thank you for listening, Elena said simply. Whatever you decide, you've proven that Krillians are wise enough to consider new ideas. That's the mark of a truly advanced species. Korat's eyes showed what Elena had learned were the colors of approval and respect. You have shown courage in coming here, Admiral Vasquez, and wisdom in how you presented your case. The council will give your proposal the consideration it deserves. As the chamber emptied, Leaving Elena alone with her guards, she reflected on how far they had all come in just a few days. The young human officer who had first proposed this mission would have been terrified at the thought of standing before a council of alien predators. But Elena had learned long ago that the most important hunts weren't about proving your strength. They were about proving your worth as an ally. 3 hours later, the council reconvened. Elena was escorted back to the center of the crystal chamber, where Alpha Prime Karath waited with a formal scroll in his massive claws. "Admiral Elena Vasquez," he announced, his voice echoing through the crystalline space, "the Krillian High Council has reached a decision regarding your proposal." Elena stood straight, ready to accept whatever judgment they had reached. "Your demonstration has shown us that humans possess capabilities we'd previously underestimated," Korath continued. "Your proposal offers potential benefits that outweigh the risks. Most importantly, your conduct has shown that humans can be worthy hunting partners rather than mere prey." Elena felt her heart begin to race, but she maintained her composure. "Therefore," Alpha Prime Karath declared, "the Council accepts your proposal for a 6-month trial alliance. Joint research facilities will be established at the coordinates you provided. Combined patrol squadrons will be formed to monitor the outer systems, and human Krillian training exercises will begin within 30 days. The chamber erupted in a symphony of approving color changes from the assembled hunt masters. Elena felt a wave of relief and excitement wash over her. "Thank you, Alpha Prime," she said, her voice strong and clear. "Humanity won't disappoint you." "See that it doesn't," Korath replied, but his tone was friendly rather than threatening. "And Admiral?" "Yes. When this trial period is complete, and we evaluate the success of our cooperation, I suspect we will discover that both our species have learned to hunt in ways we never imagined possible." As Elena was escorted from the chamber to begin the complex process of establishing the new alliance, she couldn't help but smile. Huntmaster Vex had been right about one thing. This had indeed been a hunt unlike any other. But in the end, the most successful hunts weren't about catching prey. They were about finding partners worthy of the chase. And as Elena looked up at the alien stars through the crystal ceiling of the chamber, she knew that somewhere out there, beyond the rim of known space, something was waiting that would test both species in ways they couldn't yet imagine. But now, at least, they would face it together. The real hunt was just beginning.